Ken, good evening. Thanks so much for taking the time for joining me on the podcast tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, I've been looking forward to this conversation. I first learned about you a while back. I actually did attend the premiere of the documentary that featured you and your Trans Texas run. And was that back in October? I mean, I think I got my dates off here a little bit here. When was that?
I started uh I started in Thanksgiving and I think ended mid-December. So 19 days from Thanksgiving. So uh I would say what was it like I ended like somewhere like mid-December, I want to say.
And why so late in the year? Because I remember some of the footage that I saw, and it like actually snowed on you on the first day of the run. So why so late in the year to do an endeavor like this?
So usually between time of October through say like maybe even up into January, that's like the golden time to do anything in Texas if you're going to be running very long distances. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. Yeah, the days are shorter, but I mean, predominantly the days are more manageable because it still gets hot in December, and it's not the frigid cold either that happens post like the late January, February, March. Usually there's like it's like this very terrible wet cold season that happens all throughout the year. So it's like you usually can get pretty lucky between that time. And actually, it's funny. During the run, the only times it got like bad was the first day I ran and the last day I ran. Every other day was pretty manageable, actually.
Manageable as in like I would imagine it was still probably cold, but you probably didn't have very much in the way of like maybe high winds and
Yeah,
precipitation, things like that.
basically. Yeah, for the most part. I mean, uh, I think the high winds usually came more or less in the hill country when I was going through the middle part of Texas. I remember getting through I believe Waco and coming out of Waco, and it would be kind of like I felt like as if it was sort of like I was getting closer to because I've ran in Corpus before, and I kind of got that feeling of like very thick, humid air as well over there. But for the most part, I think like I said, it was pretty manageable for the most part. I mean, I want to say the when you go through West Texas, you'll probably have to keep in mind that it's very dry and it's the highest part of Texas. So it's like uh, you probably might get a nosebleed here and there
Mm.
that may come along because of the dry air and just the it's just pretty crazy at times.
I've lived in Texas for about a year now myself, and I'm from Michigan originally. And
Okay.
when I moved here, a lot of it was to escape the cold winters that we have up in Michigan, right? But then I noticed that it does actually get pretty cold here in Texas as well. So I was kind of thrown off a little bit when, like, I moved here during the month of February, I believe, and we had like a lot of snow and there was some ice and everything like that. And but then the summers, like you talked about, were absolutely horrendous with the heat. Like I think, yeah, just this past summer, 3 months straight, and every single day it got over 100 degrees. And I tell you, man, I was not ready for that.
Yeah, it made me get a Peloton and a treadmill and realize that I'm to get the same mileage I would probably get during the fall and winter and early spring. I would have to probably either get up really early, which I have a very hard time doing. Is probably one of the reasons why I don't do races because it's like you have to get up early and go by their time, and the pressure that comes with it, I don't think I can handle anymore. But as far as like, so I don't get up early enough to run in the summer to get away from the sun. So I'll get up at like 7 or 8 and get on the treadmill during the summers and knock out 5 or 10 miles, and then like do the rest of my miles outside. But yeah, I'm not the biggest on getting up early so I can avoid the sun. So
I don't even think it really matters if you run in the dark during summertime anyway, because I did a nighttime training run with a friend of mine once, thinking that maybe it might be a little bit cooler with after sunset, but I'm telling you, man, it didn't even really matter. It was still hot, and I still had to change my shirt because I sweat through them. You know.
yeah, there's nothing normal about weather staying 90 degrees at night, but yeah, I also got a bike. And none of it is really resorted to like being like injured. It's more of just like I get like a bike, I get the Peloton, I get the treadmill. I'll start swimming only to avoid running in the middle of the summer. Like I'll do anything I can I'll only do like maybe 5 to 10 miles on the road in the summer. Other than that, the rest of it is like indoors and just trying to keep the motion going still.
So is it mostly? So you mentioned the Peloton, the treadmill, the swimming on occasion, and then the occasional road work outside as well. Like, is there any other aspects that you incorporate into just like your overall physical training? Like, do you do weights at all, or is that kind of like more taking a back seat with everything else that you do?
Like I'll use bands. I'll do like some of the stuff that my coach will ask me to do, but I'm not really a big fan on doing the gym. I'm one of the guys that has a gym membership and just uses it to shower in between my lifestyle between like working and training, and then I work 2 jobs, and then I run and do other things, and so it's convenient to have like a gym membership which has a shower that I go to, and I'll take a shower, and then I'll use their sauna. And I think they like I'm one of their regulars, right? I'm the shower sauna guy. Like I just show up, I'm already sweating and drenched, and I come in and I just shower and then hit the sauna. Well, I'll hit the sauna and then I'll get in the shower, and I'm sure they look at me and like, "Dude, what does this guy do? Like, what is he doing? Like, he comes in for half an hour and then he leaves, like, and he's usually wearing his work uniform out of here." So and I never pick up one weight. Like I'll do it if I have the time, but sometimes it's like more or less like working between 2 jobs, and just continuously training and stuff will kind of your time is limited. And like I said, I don't get up early enough to like really just be like gun ho and try to get everything fit in. I love my sleep. I feel like if I feel like the balance of my sleep predominantly helps me more than it would be to go and lift some weights an extra half hour or so. But I could be wrong. I mean, I've done it before where I was doing weight training and stuff like that, strength training, and that's kind of I still do it, but I do it the privacy of my own home with like bands and like little things that my coach will toss at me and stuff like that. But I don't go above and beyond and like get heavy weights on me.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's got to be interesting for the staff at the gym. You know, you come in, you use the sauna and the shower, but don't use any of the equipment. But yet you're still a fit guy, and you're lean and you're in shape and everything like that. So they got to be asking kind of questions. So it's like, well, if he's not doing any work here, how is he staying in such good shape?
I just stand out there in the middle of the sun and I just kind of do what I got to do. But other than that, I mean, like the I do use their treadmill because they have um the treadmill that goes up to like 30 to 40% on the incline. So I'm also the weird guy that comes in and will bring his gym bag and kind of set up shop at their treadmill, and then just automatically just keep it at 30 or 40% and run up it. And then people just kind of like, you have the guys that are like trying to build up cardio and they'll walk up it, or they're doing the stair climber, and then you have me who's just sets it at 30% and knows that I'm going to be there for an hour trying to get like 5,000 feet of climb. And then it's like I have to stop it halfway to dry it off and dry myself off, because then it starts getting too slippery, and then set it up again and just Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm the weird guy. I don't know how many other people go in there. I want to meet if there's anybody else that goes up there and does the same thing I'm doing. Like, I'd appreciate if they showed themselves, so I'm not the weird guy, and we can like come together and not be isolated in our own weirdness.
Well, what if you're not the weird guy? What if you're just the normal guy and it's everyone else that has to catch up?
I'm hoping that's the case. But again, um, I'm pretty sure like people that get on the treadmill, really like they're next to me and they're just happy to, I'm sure, to get their mileage, and I'm not like trying to come off like as if, like I'm trying to get the higher elevation or the faster or whatever. It's just so happened that, and I'm sweating all over them. I sweat a lot, so I'm like just all like they have. I've literally seen people stop their treadmill and then move a treadmill down, and I feel so bad because it's like I really do apologize. We don't have any mountains out here, so this is all I got.
Hmm.
My little treadmill at the house only goes 15%. And
Oh,
so if
really?
it yeah, if it did go 30%, like one of those Normatechs, you'd have to get one of the industrials, which I would kill for, but I'm still shopping, seeing if there's one that's less than $2,000. But they're just,
Wow.
yeah, they're those, yeah. I've heard stories of people getting lucky and getting them pretty cheap, but yeah, not to me.
Yeah, well, I think an important thing to mention here that you just brought up is just that, even though you may consider yourself to be the weird one in there for, the steep incline that you're doing for like an hour straight, at the end of the day, everyone else in there, everyone's on their own journey, has their own journey. They're on their own path, and they may be on different paths than what you are, but the important thing is they're still in there getting after it regardless. So,
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to uh really look at the fact that what people are doing in there are things that I probably should be doing myself. I don't look for trying to get a definition. Like, I've never got into running because I wanted to change how I looked. I felt like running has always been something of like trying to look for the next adventure, or occupy the time that I had when I was at that time going through a pretty bad breakup. And I was trying not to like, you know, get into like become like this person that was looking at their ex's profile. I was trying to let her kind of move on with her life, but it's really hard when all you did was be a boyfriend. So uh, when I got my running now is still fixated on looking for the next adventure. Everything that like I look at when I think about running is not so much as like I want to get this defined body perception, or whatever. It's like I want to continue working on myself so I can like run farther, run longer. Because the next adventure is always going to be, okay, I did this. Now what's the long? Now what can I do after? What can I do after? Like, well, it's always like, how much farther can I run? How much? Because there's only so much. I'm 36. I don't know how much more longer I have where I can continue running these distances. I mean, I've heard of people run at 50 or 60 years old still running across America or whatever, but yeah, I think when I'm 50 or 60, I'll be like happy to just get a retirement check. So
yeah, well, when it comes to running, like I'm trying to get more mileage in myself. Like I've done other adventures. Like I've done a through hike before across the state of Michigan. Like I said, that's where I'm from originally, and I'm also a Peace Corps volunteer, or I was in the past in West Africa, and the country I lived in, the Gambia. I rode a bicycle across the entire length of it, which was like 300 miles. So it wasn't like super duper far compared to what other people have done. But
yeah, but people are like, as you know, Africa's probably one of the gnarliest continents you can ride 300 miles across. So
yeah,
kudos.
it was hot there, that's for sure. And I rode my bike during the dry season in the Gambia, which was quite nice. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to get rained on, but at the same time, the sky was so clear, so I was getting beaten down by the sun for so much. So it was very similar to summer here in Texas, actually.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a pretty good comparison. So what I was curious to ask you now that we're sort of on like this adventure, we seek out to do these things, but they are really, really hard. Like you running across the state of Texas is quite the endeavor. I think on your first day, you did like over 40 miles, and that was more or less par for the course throughout the duration of your run across Texas. So what was kind of going through your mind at during some of those moments where maybe it did get really, really difficult? And I'm not going to put words in your mouth and say that the thought of quitting ran through your head, but I mean, there definitely must have been some hard moments, though.
Oh, definitely hard moments. Always going to be hard moments. Anything like that's going to come with a hard moment. I think doing it just depends on uh, really the why that comes along with it. I recently attempted to do a Georgetown run, which is 100 miles around Georgetown. It was like 4 laps. Um, and I really didn't have a why in there other than I twisted my ankle a year ago before that, trying to attempt it. And so when I twisted my ankle, I was like, I've never twisted my ankle on doing any sort of trails before, and so I felt like, I felt like the that was that was a surprise to me, and so I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna try to do 100 miles out here. A year later, uh, and my only why was, well, I twisted my ankle out here, and so I've never twisted my. So there wasn't really like a strong like reasoning, right? And so, but also part of that was like it was a build up for a 200 miler too as well. So um, I think the I think the cool part though is that like at mile 40 during that run, because I quit at mile 67, mile 40, I was really at a dark moment, and I was trying to snap myself out of it. Like, oh, we've been through this before. We've been here before. I've had dark moments. I've had dark days going through, trans Texas. There's days where I was just like, I could just not get out of it. But I think the only reason was that, this was ultimately going to help a bigger cause in me. So that's the only thing that kept me going at times. That and just, I think just being very, 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 very stubborn. I would just put myself either in ice baths. I would, get on some sort of recovery machine. I would roll, stretch, ask for massages, whatever I had to do to alleviate some of the pain to go another 10 more miles, right? Like even if I had to walk those miles, and so most of the time it was like 45 miles a day. Going back to the Georgetown loop, I quit at mile 67 because I really didn't have a why, other than I twisted my ankle a year ago. And I think like, uh, uh, and I mean, it wasn't really something that was sold to me, to do in the first place, but I just thought not a lot of people have done this. And so it'd be pretty cool to do it. When am I going to give up on trying it? Probably not. I'm going to probably try to go out there and do it again. I would probably do things differently. But the Trans Texas was different because my why was so defined. It was like as if I knew the reason what I needed to do. It wasn't because of just the running. There were so many things that were behind it. There's so much symbolic meanings to this run. It wasn't just I want to get attention on social media, right? Like um, there was some failed attempts that have happened in this run before from different people. Um, and, it's just, I felt like as if at least somebody can do it, down this route and really just, and like kind of like not pave the way. Somebody else has done this before. Uh, Don has done this, and he set the FKT, did it in 28 days, and and I, I did it in 19 days, and I'm hoping there's going to be somebody else that does it in 17 days, and then I'm hoping somebody else is going to do it in 16 days, and then I'm just hoping somebody just knocks it out in a week. Some crazy guy knocks. Because the thing is, like for me, like this isn't like this was never going to be about something where it's like I'm going to take. I haven't even submitted the FKT stuff. Like that's to me really like that is a cool little title, but you know, there's always going to be somebody that's going to be looking for it. And it's funny because like there's a lot of people that now have done it. There's a guy, this shirt right here. Somebody, my buddy, Dustin, he did the 1,000 miles from north to south, and he did that, and it was cool to see somebody who's like, I think he's like mid 40s,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, yeah, and he got it done, uh, and there was another there's this other guy, and he got it done. I think I don't know how many days, but he did it self-supported. Let's see, and he it was cool to kind of, I don't know how to put it, like he made the headlines. He went to school for Texas A&M, and his name was Ethan Kimes,
Ethan
and
Kimes.
yeah, he did it self-supported, no help. Guy was
Wow.
so gnarly. He rucked the whole thing, and like the attention that was brought was like as if like he would like just take one picture out of the day. He'd take a picture of like an eagle, and like and be like, you know, it was just so gnarly. Like it was like he didn't care about the social media following whatsoever. He was like just doing this to do it. Like he just wanted to like raise money for a cause too. But he's president of the ultra running club at Texas A&M.
Okay.
And he talked to me about it, and so I remember I would text him and let him ask him like, "Hey, how's it going? How's everything?" He was like telling me like, of course, and he did it while he was on Christmas break with school, the whole thing.
Wow.
So I think it was like almost a little over a month, um, and he was just like rucking for like 20 something days, close to, or 20 something miles a day, close to 30. And so when he finished, it was just and he's just an all around kind of guy. Like he was just like, I was just so happy that he was able to finish it. I was so worried because like he was solo dolo. Here I was in a nice little RV when it was hot, you know, getting the AC when it was cold, getting the heater. I had somewhere to go number two, and you know, I had a crew and all these things, and I felt like super like when I saw his stuff, I was like, what was I even crying about? Like this dude was like, his toenails were falling out. He was telling me that he was throwing up blood and everything. So it's like, you know, like when you think you're gnarly, like there's always going to be somebody out there even gnarlier. And like I think that's the beautiful part about these kind of runs, is that like never take it as if like you're like you'll never be topped, right? And so I always thought like, you know, it's all right. Somebody's going to do it in 17 days. You know, somebody's going to the goal was for me to get it done actually in 16 days. It's supposed to be 50 miles a day, but I dialed it back some because I felt like, okay, maybe 50 is a little bit too big of a chew. So I'm glad I kept it at like 40, 45 miles a day, which extended it some a little bit. But I ran every day. At least ran like 45 miles a day. The totality of all of it. Every now and then I would like maybe run like, I don't know, like 30 miles, but mostly kept it at like 45. And some of the days I actually like ran more than that. But uh yeah, it was a fun adventure, for sure. I'm looking forward to the next one. Should be coming up soon.
Right on. Now, when you said you still haven't submitted the FKT, what does that mean? What does that stand for?
Fastest known time.
Oh,
So
okay.
Yeah, so the fastest known time is like it's like bragging rights. Basically,
Mm,
you go out there and you hit one point A to point B, and then you have to prove all the that you've done it. And the way you prove it is like you got to upload your Strava and your Garmin and anything else that come along with it. Well, thing is that we recorded it day by day by day, so that's 19 files I got to upload. Plus, going into the description of things, uploading all these pictures, and yeah, I'm gonna say that that's a lot to ask of me. uh, and I have a buddy of mine who compressed all these files and stuff like that. So I felt like I do need to upload it because I've got people outside of this, especially within my crew, who would really like to know that like we at least can hold the FKT for a little bit before somebody else decides to get brave and try to attempt to do the Trans Texas.
right on. So, what was your big why that carried you through this endeavor? Because again, it's like you're putting in so many miles day in and day out. And I remember when I was watching your documentary, I figured at least some point during that time, you probably would have taken maybe like a 0 day to rest and recover. But for no, the entirety, every single day until you made it across the state, you were running.
Yeah.
So, what was that why for you that carried you the whole way through?
There. So the money that was being raised for it was for sober living. So the I definitely wanted to make sure that the goal was met. The goal was $50,000 for sober living, which would help out with those who get sober and get fine uh, that and so and pay it forward were the ones that would take care of all the needs for that. And then on top of that, like like I've been through addiction, right? My mom has been through addiction. I lost my mom through addiction. So and I feel like the message that needed to be broadcasted out to not just the folks in San Antonio, but all over the state of Texas and the U.S. is that there's a missing link that some people may not realize is that it's probably real easy to get somebody sober initially, but the transition from possible rehab or wherever to a successful living is there's still these little channels that make somebody a little bit more successful through sobriety, which is sober living and what that may look like. Putting somebody in sober living helps somebody exponentially stay sober just because of the accountability behind that. It helps somebody develop those life skills that they may have not gained when they spent their years, drinking booze or doing a bunch of drugs and stuff. And so it's amazing um, how people, adults, in their 20s, 30s, 40s who get sober and they're like, I don't know how to make my bed. I don't know how to do chores. I don't know how to pay my bills. I don't know these things. And so we would expect them to get out of rehab for 2 or 3 months and then like go live your life. Go be somebody. And it's like they don't learn these things. And sometimes some people need a little bit more assistance, going through sober living and developing these skills and stuff and learning accountability and learning how to continue to like be in the world of the community and living their life and making a living and stuff like that, but also coming home and knowing that there's some form of accountability. And that's where the help is right there. And I think that's that missing key that some communities still may not have those resources for a lot of folks. And so it's hopefully that message is more broadcasted out and the education is a little bit more aware of like some of the needs of some people who still need that.
Yeah, and a lot of times when I hear stories for people who had, became sober over time, whether it's like people that I know personally or like within the realms of like maybe people I follow on social media, it seems like fitness is kind of sort of one of like the X factors that really helps in their journeys because they find like not necessarily like a new addiction, but a passion for something, you know, for getting like healthy or maybe pursuing some sort of activity. And in turn, they find community as well. And going back to what you mentioned about accountability, you know, that's there as well. So was running maybe something that helped you on this journey when you kind of sort of started doing it more?
So yeah, I got sober back in 2015. I was 27, and right away when I got sober, I got into a relationship with somebody. And for the first almost 2 years, I was in a relationship, and all I did was smoke like a pack a day and just go to meeting and just do what was asked of me to do. And I thought like, oh, this is life. Like, I'm gonna go to work and just continue to focus on that, and I'm gonna have this. And then I realized the relationship sucked. We weren't good for each other, and it was one of those things where I was like, all right, well, I got to get out of this thing. So I got out of the relationship, and then I stopped smoking. And as I stopped smoking, I realized like, wow, like I just cut off two things that probably I thought were going to help me kind of like I thought when I had a relationship, it gave me a sense of like an identity, and a sense of like being wanted, which is not a bad thing, but like as somebody in sobriety and stuff like that, like it's and coming out of addiction, you have to be aware that like being wanted and really like accepting yourself of who you are two different things, right? Being wanted is a very weird spot to be when, especially when you're new in sobriety, right? Because it's like everybody wants to be wanted, but if you're not emotionally mature, you're gonna put yourself in a place where it's like a very toxic relationship. But in that toxic relationship, there are going to be moments where you feel like obviously your better half makes you feel like you're wanted, and so um, that was my thing. Uh, this girl made me feel like I was wanted because I didn't really at that time didn't know, but I still didn't know how to love myself. So I didn't know how to accept myself for who I was. So I was in this relationship that made me feel good, right? And smoking cigarettes as well. I'd get up in the morning. And it's funny because I'd be like, I'd pray and meditate, and then I'd smoke a cigarette because I was so in Zen things that and I was so calm that I needed to put a substance in my body to make me even feel more calm, right? And so uh, it's like very contradicting. Not that I doubt, like I don't put that on people who smoke cigarettes and call it like just for me. I was like, how am I going to tell myself I'm very calm and relaxed, but then I need to have this to feel even more relaxed. So it's like, um, so I got out of the relationship, quit smoking cigarettes, and I didn't have running at that time. But then, like, I realized like I was very agitated, and I wasn't gonna relapse or anything, but I did feel like everything bothered me, and then I kept looking at my ex's profile and seeing if she moved on, and I was being very psycho, and so my buddy went to go start looking up a course. He started looking up a thing to run. It was like a 6 mile course. And I came up behind him at work. I was like, "What are you doing?" He was like, "I'm looking up a spot to run." I was like, "Oh yeah, how far?" He's like, 6 miles. I can do that. So I put on some shoes that probably weren't meant to be ran in, and I told him to meet me over at SAC at 6:30 in the morning, and met up with him, and we ran through downtown to the Tower of Americas, and on the way back, and the whole time we were running, the only thing I was worried about is him dropping me. I didn't want to but I also realized that how I never really thought of like how beautiful my city was when I was running through there. Like I always drove through there where I was like super homeless and spun out, and like I never realized like when you're sober and you're just running through it, it's like, especially in the mornings, like you have a very beautiful city before like before the hubbub of traffic and everything. And so, I've always kept that feeling of that adventure, right? That you get. And that was my first sense of like actually feeling like an adventure. I didn't want to get dropped. I didn't want to fail. I wasn't thinking about my problems at that time. All I was thinking about was getting from point A to point B. And so that sense of adventure still is kind of within me, but then also at the same time, it's more of like, now it's become a point of like also a bigger purpose too. I can run certain distances and maybe even make raise money for running those distances. It's not always about myself, but more of like what my body can do for the community, right? Because I don't have like a whole lot of money, so I can't like shoot money out to as much as I'd love to, right? It's more of just like, okay, my body is able to do this, and so we'll throw my body to do this. Let's raise some money. Let's put it to a good cause, and let's call it a day. So
Do you have anything on the horizon that you are looking forward to, or maybe preparing to do right now? Maybe in like that regard, like as like a fundraising effort. Anything coming up?
yeah, I'll probably bring it up after my 200-mile race coming up in April. Uh, Everything is always, if I do this, then I'm able to do that. So, and that's what helps me get through some of these other challenges, though, is that I have to complete it in order to complete the next one.
Right.
So, I have a 200-mile race coming up in Alabama and Georgia, April 12th. And so once I complete that, I will complete it one way or another. It's going to get done. Like it's going to get done. I'll walk the whole thing if I have to, but, I'll get it done. And then after, at the end of it, the first thing I'll probably do is talk about the next run that's going to be happening in September. So
Yeah, that's coming up really soon. Actually, I'm just like looking at what today is. Like it's March 24th when we're recording, so that's a couple weeks away, man. Goodness.
yeah, so it's a couple weeks away. I've been, like I said, I just tried to attempt to do Georgetown. Georgetown was one of the ones where like it was supposed to be one of those things, and I already beat myself up enough about it. I've picking the pieces up and just moving on, and just yeah, we'll just move on to the next adventure.
Yeah, well, I know you are preparing well for this upcoming 200 miler that you're doing. I mean, actually, you told me you just came in from a run before we sat down to record here. So, what does your recovery protocols look like right now? Because putting in so many miles, like, day in and day out, it does create like a lot of wear and tear. And of course, you and I were in our, mid to late 30s now. So we don't recover quite as fast as we did when we were, young 20-year-olds. So, so what are you doing right now to make sure that, you're taking care of your body and you're recovering accordingly throughout training?
I mean, like I eat like pretty much just whatever is in front of me. I think of course they always say you got to watch out with what you eat, and I'm not the type to really do that. I'm the ambassador for Taco Bell. Not just kidding. I love Taco Bell. I feel like that I can justify the fact that it's got beans and it's got all the stuff that the body needs in order to nourish itself. But then also I got to reel it back to like, okay, like you can't always justify it every time, but definitely like rice and meat and potatoes is my go-to for recovery food. I sleep a good amount. Like I'm not the type to be like, David Goggins it and sleep for only 4 hours and be okay with that. Like my body needs the sleep that it needs. And so I work 12 to 14-hour days, Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, I'll work 3 to 4 hours every day. So I work every day. Plus, I have a life with recovery and stuff like that, like my sobriety recovery. And then of course, my little social life that I have. But I predominantly like I have this machine that I use. It's a PRS machine. It's a personal recovery system that I got off of ArcWave and Neurosports, and they're located off of Huebner Oaks. And I'm a ambassador for them. They like, they look out for me and just making sure that like their sessions are manageable for me and whatnot. And so, but I end up getting this machine, and it's that, and it helps so much. I mean, it's just like it really does. It keeps me alive. It really keeps me in check. It not only maintains recovery but also builds up a little bit of muscle as well. I Like I said, I think one of the strong points of me and my recovery is just ample amount of sleep. Like that's what it comes down to. Whether it's 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours. Like if I can wake up knowing like I'm not like 2 or 3 days out of the week, I'll get up after only 6, 7 hours of sleep. But like the other times, like the I get those lucky days where I can get like an actual 8, 9 hours of sleep. I'm gonna take it. I take naps. I go to sleep. I do what I got to do. Um, I do a little bit of the strengthening, I do the workouts and whatnot. But honestly, like I'm just a classic, way of handling things is keeping my easy days easy. If I run long, it's going to be slow and steady. For the most part, most people think like I rush through a lot of things and call my warm ups like a workout already as it is. But I think I mix up my stuff too. I'll go cycling some days, get on the Peloton if I have to. I really do listen to my body though. I think that's one thing about it. This year has been the year where I've signed up for like the most races I've signed up at the end of this past year and the beginning of this year. And it's really focused towards this run in September. It was like, I do these runs, and I did the Bandera run, and then I did Rocky Raccoon right after. But I did like 100 miler. Oh, I did 87 miles out there at Big Bend with a friend of mine. I did 100 miles at this Last Man Standing. I've done these, a couple of 50K sprinkled around with some marathons. And really, I think it's just I don't like signing up for races. I haven't liked doing that in quite some time. I don't think I have any more competitive streak in me. I think like most of it is just like I just like the pure thrill of like going from one point to the other without having to feel like, you need to get up at this time. You need to beat a certain amount of people. You need to be at this place. You need to make sure you take down this many goods. Like that's a lot of moving pieces for me that take away from the thrill of running for me.
Mm.
I think races are great. Like, it's awesome to, and everybody has their reasons of doing it. But for me at this moment, it's not like, something that I've been into for the past couple of years. So doing these races have been more of a kind of like a spot check of like where I am in fitness.
Gotcha. Okay. And didn't you also say that you do like recovery baths too? Like you get stuff from what the company Wild Sense, I think is the name of the company,
Yeah.
and you do like recovery baths too, something like that?
Oh, yeah. I do the recovery baths when my roommates ain't, dirtying up the bathtub. I live with two other guys, so but no, I do the recovery baths. I kind of make sure to uh you know it's funny because all this stuff is like a chore. Everything you do for your body becomes a chore.
Right.
Uh and like I don't think people in their 20s really know these things, right? Like I mean, maybe some do. Like maybe they'll get like like, oh, I twisted my ankle, I need to go do this. But it's like, man, like, nah, I just ran 220-mile days back to back. I didn't twist my ankle. Like my whole body's all messed up right now. Like I need to go and do this so I can feel like I can do an easy day a day later. So like the baths are awesome. I end up investing in a sauna, like a steam sauna. Uh, and I still don't know how to use it, but I know the benefits of it, as far as that goes. And so it's like, I feel like every year, the older I get, there's another contraption for recovery that I feel like I need to get. Like I got like the boots. I use the boots at times, and so, but I always revert back to the PRS machine. Like that's been like my go-to thing. If there's one thing, if they told me like if there's one thing you can hold on to that'll help out with recovery, it's always going to be the PRS machine. So
Yeah, right on, man. So with so the trans Texas run, that was, you said 17 days, and it was like total like 850 miles, give or take, somewhere around there that you ran.
yeah, give or take. I could have sworn it was 850, but my crew said 840, so I'll let them go with that. But I'm gonna be one of those old guys that say it's 850, and then they're gonna say 840, and it's like, So, but yeah, it was about 840, and honestly, I felt like the very last day, your mentality just becomes the non-fighting mentality that, like, the first 19 days that I was there, it was like every day my body was like screaming, and my mentality was like, no, we got another day, let's go. Like, but then that 19th day, when I knew that I only had was 45 miles, it was like there was no fight in me whatsoever. And at the end of it all, like my body just collapsed. It was like done. It was like, okay, done. Like, I remember when it was all done, they were waiting for me at Louisiana, and we ate at some, I don't remember, it was like some restaurant. I was just like, I felt like I was like kind of dreaming in a sense, because like, uh, I mean, it was done, and that sort of thing. But there's so many questions I didn't have a whole lot of answers to give out. Like, well, how are you feeling right now? How are you doing? And I think like it's one of those things that like you can never really describe. You get something done like that, and like to you, it was like, well, like for me, I was like, I'm glad I got it done. There, that's it. We can call it a day. And then people will ask you a bunch of questions afterwards, and you really don't know how to answer it because you're just glad that it was done.
Hmm.
It's like I don't know, like getting done with school, and there's people are asking you like, how did you finish college, or what was it like, and you're just like, I don't know, man. I got the degree. That's it. Like I'm done. Like and so I'm sure some people can understand that, like when they finish something and they accomplish something so big in that magnitude, and then of course, like, people be like, hey, how did you do it? I was like, I don't know. I really don't. Like there's something bigger than me that helped me get through it. But if I told you right now how I got through it, it was just coping with some of the lows, and then just riding the highs.
Hmm.
So
Well, ultimately, you just kept going. I mean, like that's really what it is, and that goes to any other like thing that you can think of. Like when I hiked across Michigan, uh, it was about 1,200 miles that I had to hike, and it took me 3.5 months to do. And similar questions that I got as well. It's like, well, how did you do this? And I'm like, I just walked, and I just did not stop walking until I made it to the finish. And really, that's what it boiled down to in your case too, is just you just didn't stop running until you made it to the finish.
yeah, that's it. And once I saw the Louisiana state line, and I was like, that's it. This is it. And I had a big old smile on my face. People thought I was gonna cry. I think I teared up in the shower just a little bit, but that was like, yeah, more or less it was just like, thank God that's done. And that was it. But now it's like almost 2 years later, and here we are back to square one again. Looking forward to September and seeing how that goes. Everything is like basically being put in the works, and I'm looking forward to tackling this one. And it's. I think this one will definitely help. I'll tell you the cause behind it though is to the money that I'd be raised for what I'm going to be doing is raising money for families who are looking for treatment, and can still keep their kids with them. So like there's a facility that Haven for Hope has these rooms that they can facilitate to pay it forward. They can, possibly go to rehab, and they can do the classes, and they can do all these things. And the difference between families that have to do that and what I'm looking at is that the kids don't have to be put into a safety plan. They don't have to be, taken to custody of foster care or their relatives or whatever. They can stay with the parents while the parents go through this. They can actually go to school and just live their day-to-day lives while their parents are learning how to, stay sober and learning these things, and and they're together and unified. And I think that's one of the biggest barriers for some families, is that, like, how am I supposed to go get treated? How am I supposed to get treatment and then know that my kid is going to be okay?
Right.
And it's funny because I do work at that place, Haven for Hope. I've been working there for 7 years now, and I think the idea, since this past year, I've seen a lot of families who I've seen get child removals because of substance abuse. And so, and one of the things is like, hey, instead of like having them feel bad, it's like, how can we support you? Right. And the initial like excuse is like, how can I get the help if my kid is going to be taken from me? I can't do that. I wouldn't be able to. And it's like, I don't blame them. Right. Like, and so, at that moment, it's it's a little selfish of the parent. Like, right. I feel like sometimes it's a little selfish, like, go get help, and then, and then you'll be in a better state. But I also think that there's a fine line where a parent can get the help and still keep the child and learn how to continue to parent, but learning while they're staying sober or getting sober. And so there's that.
So as far as you taking on this endeavor to raise money for this cause, and I wrote it down, Haven for Hope and Pay It Forward, and I'll include links to both of those in the show notes for this episode if our listeners and viewers want to go and check those out. So as far as the running aspect, what is that going to look like? Where is it going to be? How far are you planning on go? Or is that part like a surprise still?
I think it's still a surprise because I want to say the distance, but the logistics of the mapping right now is very like I know it's weird. But it's like a 500-mile difference right now, and we're trying to figure out if we want to incorporate certain designated spots out of those states. It's definitely going to cross over several states, but there's some spots. And so I don't want to say like this is like going to be it and that's how long it's going to be, and so on and so forth, and then it's completely different. And that's like more or less I've kind of stuck to just keeping this under wraps between myself and the people like that are around me right now, who obviously keep me hold me accountable, but then also I don't want to make it too confusing for people who do want to help, or and then like them tell them one thing and then, oh wait, forget it, no, we're not going to do that, scratch that. I want everything to be put in concrete, like that this is how it's going to be. And that way, because I hate backtracking and then having to correct myself because I gave out misinformation.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So, but I promise you, like, you'll be the first person I tell once everything is put into place. I just don't like to tell somebody something and then, oh wait, I forgot. Like, it's not going to be, that. And so,
all right. Well, this episode will be coming out in around like maybe mid-February. So I guess just, we'll tell our listeners and viewers just to keep their eyes peeled and stay tuned, and then as I'm sure more details will come to light, when they come. So.
okay, cool. Yeah. And honestly, I think, the message is more important to me than the actual run. And
Right.
and then the that was one thing. I did sit down, like just a little, like when I sat down with them and we talked about this, they said, like, I told them right off the rip, I said, I know that there's people who have ran longer than this. I know there's people who are going to be running that can run faster than this. And I like and they're talking about another documentary. They're talking about all these things they want, talking about all these interviews that they want with the news and stuff like that. None of that means anything to me. I can appreciate all the work behind that. And I can appreciate the fact that the message will be out there. And that's the only thing that matters to me. As long as the message goes out to small towns that may not realize, like, maybe this is something we're missing. Maybe we can start doing this for our community, right? Like, or bigger cities that can think about, like, oh, maybe we need this in our community. That's such a great idea. There's not a whole lot of places that service single dads with kids who are seeking sobriety. There's not, at least not in my city. Very few and far between. And, if there's a single dad out there who, needs that support, like, man, I sure hope that resource is ready and willing to help them out, because, like, I see, a lot of services for moms, and that's great, because moms, nowadays, like, they need that too. But, I don't see a whole lot for a single dad coming to our doorstep and being like, man, like, I don't want to lose my kid. I need help. And I don't want to lose, like, I don't want my kid going somewhere. I want them with me, but I need help. We don't have that. We don't have a place like that. And I hope we will have a place like that will be there to help support.
All right, right on, man. Well, definitely looking forward to see what you put forth on that front for sure. Well, we are kind of coming up on about an hour, and so I want to start winding things down so we can go and do that very important thing of sleep and recovery here pretty soon.
Yeah.
So, but a couple more things I wanted to ask you before I let you go here. And these are the questions that I ask all my guests towards the end of the show. And the first one is, I asked my guests to issue a challenge to our listeners and our viewers. Because, we got to hear some stories from you today. We got to get some information from you today. But as I say, stories, information can only take our listeners and viewers so far. Action has to follow up to go out and do amazing things. So with that, what challenge would you issue to our listeners and viewers today for them to go out there and start living a more adventurous life?
Yeah. Probably, I would say probably do something that's out of their nature of a kind act, and not have to feel like they need to talk about it.
Hmm.
Go, obviously donate their time to somewhere, give their time to something outside of something, for a community that they may not know or may not know them, and not feel like they have to talk about it. Just the integrity of actually, like, doing that, and not having to, like, bring it up and being like, this is me doing something. I think there's too many, and just the integrity of being a decent human being for that time, without having to, like, show that off or even talk about it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's that only challenge, right? That's an adventure within itself, because meet people that are in a very vulnerable population. I promise you, you're gonna meet some wild folks that you're gonna really fall in love with, and it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing to do, and then the cool thing about it is that if you do it without having to share it, that's a moment that you and that individual can share without having to, like, bring it up to somebody else, right? And so that's, yeah.
All right, right on, man. All right, so what I have next for you is my final three, and these questions, I like to think that they're fun questions, though that may be subjective. But I ask all my guests at the end of the show, like I mentioned. So of course you're going to get asked these as well. And the first of these three questions is, what is your favorite place that you've been to so far?
Favorite place I've been to so far has been definitely, I would say Mexico, like Monterrey.
Monterrey, Mexico. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that might be a first for the podcast, Ken. I don't think anyone's brought up Monterrey, Mexico before, or has anyone? I'm thinking maybe I at least had guests that brought up Mexico in general, but not Monterrey specifically. So
Yeah,
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 so
yeah, definitely a good spot.
all right, so we got to so we're 1 for 1 for originality for these questions. And the next question is, what is one thing on your bucket list that you have yet to do?
Um, Man, I'm jealous that you went to Africa because that's definitely something I want to do. I want to go to Africa. I hear it costs an arm and a leg,
I
but
can.
I definitely want to go out there and get eaten up by a lion or something. Man, I want to go out the way that like a cool. I don't want to die on the toilet. You
Okay.
know, so
All right. All right. The continent of Africa awaits you, my friend. All right. And speaking of animals, that's what the third question entails. And this is a two-parter question. And it is, what is your favorite animal? And have you seen this animal in the wild?
that's funny. Definitely, I have a couple of favorite animals, but I think one of my favorite animals is the blue whale, and I have not seen them in the wild. So
That is definitely a first to come up on the podcast. I don't even think anyone said whales in general. So a blue whale. Yeah, there we go.
yeah, biggest animal in the world right now. So yeah,
Okay. Right on. All right. Well, kind of that's it, man. That's all the questions that I have for you tonight. But before we wrap this up here, where can our listeners go to connect with you, stay in touch with you as you kind of like release more information about your upcoming endeavors and like I said, the charitable organizations and also some of the companies that are supporting you. Yeah, where can we go and find everything, man?
I would say running underscore out of underscore money underscore running out of money basically. Yeah, on Instagram, and I don't have too many other social media following. I have a Facebook, but all I do is post memes on there. Yeah, you wouldn't like it. So I don't take Facebook very seriously. I'm waiting for them to kick me out. So, but yeah, that's my side job is posting memes. So
Okay. All right. Well, I'll get that linked up in the show notes for this episode. So, like I said, our listeners and viewers can go connect with you over there. All right. Well, Ken, I want to thank you very much for taking the time for joining me tonight. And, I appreciate you being willing to hop on this late and maybe, sacrificing a little bit of your sleep. But, I appreciate you and just, how you're showing up in the world, man. So thanks a lot for your time today and sharing your stories with myself and listeners, man. This has been awesome.
thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
All right. Right on, man.